Welcome to On the Precipice MUFON Contact radio program with your hosts CJ Arabia and Richard Banasek, where discovery, disclosure, and evolvement meet. We are on the cusp of evolutionary realizations, technologies, and awareness, so come along and share in the adventure of discovery of who we really are and where we are going.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hey, how are you, CJ?
I'm great. I love the holidays. I'm a holiday person, so I'm very happy. You might be listening to this in the future, listeners, but right now for us, it's the holiday season. So
'Tis the season.
Tis the season. Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas. And soon it's going to be New Year. And we just took our kid to see Santa this past weekend. So he's super excited. And I don't know. It's just like a beautiful time of year, right?
You know, it's funny that you say that. And boy, has time also gone so quick. I think this may either be our 11th or our 12th episode.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's just amazing and how time has gone, you know, and this actually a very enjoyable podcast that I think we've been a part of. So anyway, what's happening, CJ, in the world of CJ?
In the world of CJ, well, my sister's reporting snow in Des Moines. My brother's reporting snow in Ohio. I just think it's all through the north. But here in California, it's a beautiful 70 degrees, as you might expect, with the sun shining. And we're just so grateful to everybody who's been listening to us. And we're so grateful for our producer, Bill Skywatcher Forte. You can find Facebook and TikTok. He's always going live, and sometimes I just watch him play video games and listen to his music when I'm getting breakfast ready in the morning for my family. And we're just grateful for all the work that he does for us and for all of you who are listening to us. And I'll just get into our MUFON announcements. So just remember that MUFON Contact Radio is available. It's on Apple Podcasts, Rumble, really anywhere that you like to listen to a podcast. You should be able to find us and subscribe. So please do that. And they're also broadcasting us on the MUFON YouTube channel as well. So we're just like everywhere. So find us, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment. All that stuff helps. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. And we broadcast every other week. So if you're listening to us today, then 2 weeks from now will be the next broadcast, and you can mark your calendar. And I think our next guest is going to be Gino Marigalano. I can't even say my state director's last name right now. It's hard with those Italians, right? I also messed up Mary's name. SoCal MUFON. There we are. You can find us at SoCalMUFON.com, and we're on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and we just appreciate you guys following us on social media, where we'll share links and stuff like that. But so MUFON proper, field investigators wanted, right? I know you've heard us say this before. It's just part of our announcements. Wherever you are, MUFON is a global organization. We investigate UFO reports in every country, every part of the globe, and we always need field investigators. There's some places like Southern California, we have quite a few field investigators, but a lot of areas we have not enough field investigators. And if you're interested in that, if what we're talking about interests you in some way, and you'd like to do what Richard and I do, which is investigate UFO reports in your general area, you can go to MUFON.com and become a member. And then you can go to the MUFON Find a Chapter page. You could just Google Find a Chapter and it'll pop up. And you'll find the state director or whoever is in charge of your region. And you can shoot them an email and say, hey, I'm a member and I want to find out how to become a field investigator. Who do I talk to? And they'll just guide you through it. And if all that's too hard, you can always just shoot us an email at cjandrichard@gmail.com, and we will happily walk you through the process of becoming a MUFON field investigator. And likewise, if you have a report you'd like to make, whether it's a UFO or some kind of contact or an entity, also at the top of MUFON.com, or you can go to SoCalMUFON.com. We also have a link right back to the reporting pages. You just press those red buttons at the top of the page and you can make your report. And someone, a local field investigator in your area, is going to reach out to you. We reach out to everybody in person. Sometimes in some regions where we don't have enough field investigators, it takes us a little bit of time to reach out to you. And then sometimes, like here, we have enough field investigators where someone might reach out to you the very next day after you make the report. So the goal would be obviously to have enough field investigators that people could reach out to everybody within like the first few days of the report and just find out what's going on and take your statement, get your testimony, and put it in the written record, right? So Richard and I are both, like I said, field investigators in the Southern California MUFON region. So be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, because starting in January, the first Sunday of every month at 2 p.m. Pacific time, because that's where we are, we're going to be having Zoom meetings that are open to the public, but the link won't be posted everywhere. What you do is you're going to find a post on our social media or our website, and you're going to go and you're going to click a registration button, and then they're going to shoot you the link for the meeting that way, so that we know who's coming to the meeting, just for security and other things like that. So, yeah, there's some of our old meetings back at the old West Valley Music Center. Earl always threw a great meeting, and we always had so much fun. So, let's see, where are we going here? Oh, you know what, Richard, I got a letter to me from an experiencer who read my column on the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Or actually, my column is on the Wow Signal News. So if you're not familiar, Dan Harari, thanks, right there, Wow Signal News. I have a column. It comes out once a month. There's a few of us who have columns. And I have to say, I've gotten more emails through that column than anything else I do. And a woman wrote me a letter, and I just thought I would read it because it's kind of interesting. So, dear CJ, says, I'm certainly not an extreme experiencer, just an 85-year-old woman who has a small library of UFO material, but I wanted to share something with you that I rarely share, as it's often met with a blank stare. When I was only 6 years old, I started having a very strange nighttime experience. And she said it was recurring. So I would feel myself getting very small, and I do mean small, like a crumb or a piece of lint. And I would be aware of being in a room with white walls that gave light to the room. And I was in there with people, and I could barely perceive, but I knew I wasn't alone. I wanted to leave, and I kept asking, can I go now? And this happened over and over until I was about 10 years old. I had the back bedroom with knotty pine walls. And if you know knotty pine, it looks like big eyes. Look. So she said, I often saw eyes in the knotty pine, and it scared me a lot, big black eyes. And I'd wake up sometimes not able to get back into my own body. I had no voice. I couldn't make a sound. I'd try to scream and nothing would come out. I have never written this down, she says. It feels a bit strange. Always wanted to write Bud Hopkins after I read his book, but I never did. And recently I've been getting the Hollywood Disclosure UFO newsletter and reading your articles. And so I wanted to send you an email, and I don't mind you sharing this with other people. I am writing to ask, have you ever heard of someone getting very, and she even made the font smaller, very small? And this is from Kathy O. So if anyone out there, because I haven't had a case where someone got very, very small or had a recurring dream like this, but I'll bet if we share this with other people, somebody out there is going to say, you know what, I have a memory like that. So I'd love to hear from you. You can use cjandrichard@gmail.com. You can also email me directly at moveoncj@gmail.com, just like Kathy O did. But I have not heard of this. So if anyone can relate, she would really like to hear from any of you out there who would like to, I don't know, let her know she's not alone and that you have something similar. It may not be exactly the same, but something similar. And I know Richard always has some stuff he likes to share before we get going. So I'm just going to toss back to Richard right now.
Yeah, just some comment about what you said. Again, we're here because of that reason, because of what we are to MUFON and our own belief in the phenomenon. And so I echo CJ. If you've ever had an experience like she's mentioned, reach out to us. There's CJ's email. You can reach out to ours together. There's emails on MUFON, make a report. There's people who have had similar experiences, and hopefully we can talk to you and maybe just listen if nothing else. So that's a very important thing. So thanks for sharing that. So, one of the things that we like to do on here, just to make sure that people are aware of the other aspects that, we have with MUFON, and I sometimes forget about sharing this because we did this the last time, but I like to do this because I just think that it's cool that, MUFON is also on YouTube, and everybody knows that, and the MUFON Mutual UFO Network. And then, of course, as you know, CJ, we're on there, and the broadcasts that we have are on there. So if you're interested, you can go to YouTube. We have our own page, MUFON does, has all the different videos and podcasts and movies that are part. It has the symposiums. It has all the cast of involving our show. There's some recent ones that we did, and Florida and Stephen Bassett. So again, we just want to encourage, like anything else, just that people see what we're doing. And there's a place to go when you're finished with this podcast. If you want to, you go on YouTube. So there's so many cool things.
So many episodes, like The Miracle of Fatima with Francisco Mora. And
absolutely.
We have another episode that's going to be coming out this Tuesday. So there's so many.
And then they have documentaries there that MUFON has produced themselves, and other podcasts. And again, there's a plethora of things. We just want to offer that in as an example. So one of the things I like to do on this show is just talk about, just because we're on the cusp of a lot of things, discovery, technology, evolution, and involvement. So I saw this thing recently, and I wanted to bring it up. It's something that was found or seen or observed in the ocean. And I thought it was cool. It's some sort of undersea creature that they claim it is what it is. I'm not sure what
Where is there a link? Where can I see the link?
There is a link, and there's a video. So let me see if I can also bring up the video, because I think the video, it does it more justice with the video. So let's see what we have here.
Let's make sure to put that link in the description so people can click on it later.
Yeah, let me see if I have this video link for everybody.
It looks very familiar. I've seen, first of all, you can see patterns like this in the sand below, because there's animals that make similar patterns in the sand. And then there's just so many creatures down there we've never seen before, right?
Well, and that's it. And so let me see if I can bring it up. I thought I could bring it up. It doesn't look like, but
that's all right.
That's kind of sad. But the thing is I had it queued up, but this is something that I saw, and it's an original link. And this was a creature that, as you can see, it's an underwater, deep underwater. And it was a picture of something and it's actually that color. I wish if I can get it going, I'll sort of try to bring it up later. But
great.
Anyway,
and if not, Richard, just put the link in the description. People can click on it later.
And you know what? I will do that. So anyway, having said that, the next thing that I'd like to share with everybody, because is this thing that came out just recently. So I don't know if you're aware of this. AI, of course, is obviously growing. And so recently, the White House and the Department of Energy released this information about their new program called the Genesis mission. And I just want to read what that says. It says, today, Trump signed an executive order launching the Genesis mission, which is a bold national initiative that aims to accelerate scientific breakthrough using AI. And so I'm not going to go in and read all that, but what I would like to do is I'd like to see if I can just show this video of it, because I think it's actually pretty cool. So let's see what we can do here with it. And here comes right about now. Let's see here. Here we go. And bam. And let's start it. Hopefully there's no... It's only about a minute.
In every age, humanity invents new ways to see further. The telescope let us glimpse the stars. The microscope revealed the worlds within us. For centuries, thinkers like Leibniz, Shannon, and Turing dreamed of making all knowledge computable. But today, knowledge grows faster than our ability to understand it. Trillions of data points, a universe of information still unconnected. Now, a new instrument emerges, one capable not only of observing the universe, but of understanding it. Genesis mission will transform how science is done in America, uniting our brightest minds, most powerful computers, and vast scientific data into one living system for discovery. Built on artificial intelligence and quantum computing, it will radically redefine the scale, speed, and purpose of scientific progress in America. This is the work that will define our generation's legacy. A new revolution begins, one guided not by competition alone, but by curiosity, imagination, and the belief that discovery is the truest form of progress.
I showed that because I thought it was pretty cool. So
I don't know. I say don't trust anything AI. I feel like that video didn't really say much. It sounded like a lot of words without any real information in there. So, you know, a lot of people like to justify their jobs and make it sound like they're doing stuff like this. This sounds like a bunch of people justifying their jobs. I didn't see anything in there.
Well, again, the whole idea here for me to bring it up is this whole issue of AI and where we're going with it and how it's going to affect our world. You know, it's like anything else, you know, if you can harness an intelligence, an artificial intelligence, it can lead to a number of breakthroughs. It can lead to information. So I'll give you an example. Recently, the Peruvian government sponsored an AI program to analyze through LiDAR the Cusco and Nazca lines. As a result of the AI program that they commissioned, they found an additional 312 petroglyphs in the ground that they never saw before.
Sure.
And so what they did is that once the AI program analyzed them and did the cross section and said where they were, they actually went out on foot and have started and continue to do to see if there is actually anything where they said it was. And they have confirmed that there is an additional whole layer of petroglyphs. So the whole landscape of what Nazca is and what it was and what people thought is changing as we go. Similarly, there was another AI program for the Sumerian text cuneiforms and the other cylinders that were found from the last century, 1800s through the beginning of this. And AI has been used to see if it can determine patterns and reading it. So the point here is there is a lot of benefit. There is a lot of things going on. I find it kind of significant, cautious, but again, the idea is just the potential of a good part and not a bad part. And I know there's all kinds of controversy, but I just wanted to show it. I thought it was cool that the Department of Energy on their YouTube page, United States Department of Energy YouTube page that you can find on YouTube, put this on about 2 weeks ago.
Well, I wouldn't trust anything from this administration, including the Department of Energy. So
yeah. And so this is it. And again, you know, whatever you, again, I'm apolitical and I get everybody else's. I think it was a cool thing to just put it up there and ask people to understand that AI is here. It's here in many different forms. Whoever uses it, it can be used for all kinds of things. It is the future. We use it in the computers. We use it in our phones. We use it in our life today. So it is here. So how we wield that knowledge is obviously the question. So anyway, I just thought it was a cool thing. You know, the other thing that I wanted to make sure, because we often like to just have cases of interest. Dorothy Eates was a lady from the northwest part of the United States and part of Canada. And in 1974, she saw something while she was in the kitchen doing what, you know, people did back there. And she thought she saw a lot of anomalous things. And she got a camera out and she started taking pictures. And she started discovering that through her camera and through her 8mm phone and camera that she was somehow able to see pictures and things that nobody could figure out. There was a book and a documentary that was done. That one of the things I would suggest. I thought it was a good document. It's called "Capturing the Light." It's about her and the things that she worked. And I just wanted to show a couple of the pictures that she captured with her camera. Now, obviously, the 4 that's on my left, or whatever you want to think that they are, and then the picture on the right is what she claims were things that her camera picked up, beings or however she was able to determine what they are. I just thought it was an interesting story. It's one of those many cases involved in this phenomenon.
Is this a MUFON case? Do we have a case number?
We don't have a MUFON case for it because it was a very old one, and I don't think she reported it to them. But either way, I'd be interested to know. I haven't did the research whether she did report on MUFON, but there's a lot.
Could be before the CMS.
Yeah, and it could be. So anyway, I just thought it was really cool. And so,
well, I would say also with phones, you got to be really careful. Phones will capture all kinds of lights and anomalies and stuff, and it doesn't make it anything other than your phone unless you see it with your eyes. If you can't see it with your own eyes, just capturing strange lights with a phone, I don't really see the significance in capturing lights with a phone that you cannot see with your own eyes. Did she see this stuff with her own eyes, or is she just shaking her phone around capturing weird lights?
So as far as I know, she saw them with her eyes, and she also captured them with her camera. And I think what she equated it is what we understand how we first learned about radar. We couldn't hear it. We didn't know it was there. But once we had an instrument that was able to pick it up, we were able to detect it. And I think that's the idea with her camera and her 8mm. So to say that you can't see anything or hear anything doesn't mean that it's not there. She used a sensor, sort of like a camera, and an 8mm to, I guess, resonate or pick the picture up. So I think there's a lot of credibility when it comes to that, just like any other sonar or radar that we use.
I guess I'd have to know what her equipment is. It sounded like it was just like a camera or a phone, but if she's got some kind of special equipment.
No, my understanding it was a camera and an 8mm camera. And it's funny that the capture of the light actually goes into her story. So I just thought it was a really cool thing. Again, it's everybody's decision as to what they think or feel about it. So anyway, that's all I had to offer. So if we're ready,
we
can talk about our guest and introduce if you want to. So today's guest is Susan Holloway Ware, and the case that we're involved in that we'd like to present, I have named it the Jackrabbit Abduction Enigma case. It was an original MUFON case. And so the picture there is actually from part of the investigation. Obviously, it's a little bit more of a colored thing, but doesn't mean that's what she saw. But that was sort of the rendition. However, Susan did make her own renditions when we get to it. So if we can we bring on Susan now? She's somewhere there. I think she's there.
Is she there? Did we lose Susan?
There we go. I'm sorry. Here you are. Can you hear us?
She can't hear us.
You can't hear us. Can you check your headset, or can you not hear anything that we're saying? Maybe Bill. I don't know if Bill is there or not.
He's here. Do you have a headset? Look in the chat, because we can't hear you either.
So Bill, I don't know. I brought her up.
We'll edit all this. Susan, I need you to leave and come back in.
Something happened since we last spoke, babe. Yeah, exit, log out, and come back.
Let me put the time.
Text her, Richard, too. Maybe if you text her.
2400. 2400. I'll see if I can text her. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Let's see.
It's pretty easy to find in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just tell her just to re-enter.
That was weird. I was actually running
back.
Is
that her? There she is. All right.
Let's see if it works. There you go.
I can hear you now. When you started recording, it cut off, so I haven't heard a word of what y'all said. But
okay. Wow.
All right. It'll be new to you when it's live. Then
there you go.
So, Rich, start it off by just saying hello Susan, welcome, because I'll just cut it from when you were segueing to get her on.
Okay,
sir.
we're at 24:58 right now. Ready? All right, Susan, welcome to the show. Good to have you back again. I know you've been here in the past. So how are you?
I'm good. It's good to be
Good,
back.
very nice. So let me ask you, and I really appreciate you coming on, and you and I have had, I guess, a sort of a MUFON-based relationship, and then grown from there about when you originally contacted us and reported what has become for MUFON and for me the Jackrabbit abduction Enigma case. And I know it's been on other podcasts and even this one a while back, and there were some others ones that were very well done. But today we want to talk about that because I think it's a good thing to continually share with people who've never heard of it. I also want to talk a little about where you're at, where you live, your background. One of the things that I wanted to make sure, because I think it's an extremely important thing that we tell people. Susan is a veteran, and I know she's honored to be a veteran. So thank you, Susan, for serving your country and being a representative of what we have. And I have these pictures, and you can give us a little background. You're on top of a plane, and you're there with your buddies, and so let's go there. So tell us about this time in your life, and tell us what you were doing, and tell us about why you joined the military, because I thought it was really cool.
Well, not to be a smart aleck or anything, but that one where I'm sitting on the wing, I'm wiping off bird shit off the top of the wing because it's the Admiral's plane. And he complained
Someone's got to do it.
He complained I had missed a spot and made me go back. So clean. That's what I'm doing. That was my important job, working on the line, flight line.
Amazing.
What a memory.
So how old were you when you went in there? Where were you stationed? What was your job?
Well, at first I went to, after boot camp, I went to Norfolk for 6 months, and I typed up the plan of the day for the commander, and I got really tired of that because I didn't want to type. I didn't want to be in an office. So I just asked in the middle of the night for a transfer and asked for Hawaii. And next thing you know, 2 weeks later, I was there in an aviation squadron with C-130s and C-118s, and it was the VIP squadron. So all the admirals and the high ups flew through that also. But I was the first woman on the flight line, and there were 2 or 3 other women in the squadron on the other side of the squadron, all doing paperwork. And I just didn't want to do paperwork. So they put me on the flight line, and it was a great job. And most of those guys are still my best friends today.
How long did you serve?
Just 4 years.
4 years. And how old were you when you went in, and how old were you when you left?
18 to 22.
And then
When I was actually 17, but then they had a delayed entry back then.
Right.
And especially for women, just trying to find a billet for us.
So I know in Southern California, there's sort of a Southern California voice, but you don't have a Southern California voice. You sound like you're a little bit from either the South or back east somewhere. So tell us a little bit about your family, especially about your dad and brother and their career, because I think that's pretty cool, because that's what probably shaped who you are.
No, it's very funny because that's why it was so easy to talk with you, Richard, when you interviewed me, because my brother was a cop for 37 years and my father for over 20. So I was a little worried about maybe interrogation at first. And then after I met you, I knew that wouldn't happen. So thank you for that. So at Charlotte, North Carolina, and then I joined when I was 17. I had a pretty good childhood. I didn't have a great mother, but I had a fabulous father and a really great stepmother later. So, and sisters too. So it was nice.
Wow, very nice. And I know they influence and were a big part of your life. So you're in San Diego. You're 21, 22 years old. You're living the life in Southern California, 1976, 77, 78. You're a youngster. And what I remember from our talk, and this is in the prelude to go into your experience, you did what everybody else did at that time. When you had time off,
Oh yeah.
you did things. And one of the things that you like to do, if I'm not mistaken, is you went camping. You
Yeah.
love to go to an area. So I'd like to go to 1977, and I want to talk about the event that previously to when you left the service, and then we'll go on from there. But that your camping trips and where you went and the people that you went with. So let us know, because this is part of your whole Jackrabbit Abduction Enigma event. So,
Well, it literally just I've been camping my whole life. We were practically raised in a tent, and then once at 15 moved in with my father and my stepmom, we pretty much camped every single weekend. And in the summer, we would go camping and set up at the week after school, and we would stay the entire summer on the beach until a week before school. So it's not like we hadn't been outside all the time. And what do? You always look up, And of course, I was in the ocean a lot, so I was all about swimming with the dolphins, but nobody knowing it. So I would see them coming and, just kind of la-di-da, go out into the water very slow, and then swim with them. And that was always fascinating. And I knew if you shared it with somebody, they messed it up. So don't share it with anybody. Just go do it yourself.
yeah.
Because that's all I would want to touch. They want to touch or lunge or, and it wasn't about that. It was just about just kind of, I think it was that free spirit. That's how it pretty much started when I was young. And it's always been that way. I had the visitations when I was young, but most of that I just kind of accepted as part of a life. I don't know if it was normal or not normal. I really just knew it had happened a lot.
Yeah, kids' fantasy. And
Yeah.
we get that on have experiences like CJ was talking about with the lady who wrote her, and she was 6, 7, some are 4, some are 8. They see things, they play with friends, they do things.
Yeah.
And so again, whether we remember those or they were just fantasies or they were make-believe or they were real, whatever.
Yeah.
That's we grow up. But it was interesting when we were talking, you went out to the eastern part of the desert. CJ's from San Diego. But there's an eastern desert out there, and it's an important place because we've taken many cases, and there's been many things on TV
Anza-Borrego.
the
Anza-Borrego.
I got a lot of Anza-Borrego. I love renting a little cabin out there and camping.
That's when the weirdness.
Well, so that's where I'm going. So tell us about your actually specific trips at that time, 1977, 78, just prior to leading the service, and what you experienced, because I think that led to a lot. Now, of course, you remember stuff later that you got about what happened during that time, but just tell us about that time. So,
I just remember going out, and it was for the day, and it was with my friends, Grizzly and Rick, and some other guy that I wasn't quite sure. I knew where he worked. They all worked at HS10 at the helicopter squadron. But Rick worked at AIMD where I worked, and I had not been there a very long time because when I first got to North Island, I volunteered for small odd jobs and where I could travel a little bit. And then when I finally did meet these guys, they all had Jeeps, and that was kind of what I had been raised around, is they were the ones that were always wanting to go camping. So I was like, I'm in. So we went out, and I didn't know anything about this place. But what I saw, it was just fabulous. So the whole ride from Imperial Beach,
IB,
IB all the way, to the mountains. And then I fell in love with Cuyamaca and Julian, and we just endless trails, CJ.
Yeah, man, that's my childhood.
Off and never come home, and you still would only see a small part of the area because it was so fascinating, and there were creeks everywhere to get in, and as you got to the desert there were less creeks. But I had fun out there, not really with girlfriends yet because I hadn't known about this. Once I knew about it, and I always knew that there was something weird and strange about it because it gave you a weird, creepy but exhilarating feeling. You get both when you're out there, and especially at night, because
you're talking about the canyons and the desert and the driving.
Horizon, anywhere else in the United States, if you live in town or anywhere at the beach, anywhere, there's always stuff around you, trees or hills or wherever, but out there it's just flat. So the moon and the stars come all the way down to the horizon. So your peripheral vision is it's wired when you're out there, because you see everything move and you hear everything that travels in the wind, and all those are like superpowers of mine anyway. So no wonder I would love to go out there. Yeah. It's exhilarating and exciting. And so when the guys just said, we're going to go on Coyote Pass, and then it started getting late, and they said, do you mind staying? And I'm like, oh no, I'm in. It was just so amazing, because some of the places we had to go through, you had to go up on 2 tires, and the other 2 tires had to climb.
That's my childhood with my uncle.
Yeah.
Constantly.
And you never know. I mean, there's no seatbelt. They tell you, if I say jump, then you better jump. And I'm like, why would I jump? And because if not, you'll roll.
Yeah.
So okay, I got it. I got it. After I saw it happen a few times and I got good at it, but it keeps you hyper. It keeps you hyper, and you're very, very much aware as it's dusk of the sounds and how the sky just lights up, even if there's not a full moon out there. So when I just decided, I remember us figuring out the fire by going tumbleweed to tumbleweed and just splashing it and lighting it on fire. Those were the days that you could do that. You can't do that.
Yeah. So we used to make snowmen out of tumbleweeds. We'd stack them up and put a stick down the middle.
A lot of heat really quick. And so if it's as it gets cold, and it can be hot during the day, but really cold at night in the desert. And we were all prepared, but I noticed after a while the guys all had set up where we had 3 fires, and it was kind of to light the whole area up around us. And then I took the seats out of the Jeep because I didn't really want to be on the ground, because I knew what was on the ground. And all I had was these elevated flip-flops. I had not come for boots. I did not come to stay, to hike. I just came for a Jeep ride. So I wasn't prepared on that. And I took the seats out of the Jeep and slept in the Jeep. But I remember waking up to that egg-shaped blue. Oh, you probably have a picture. It's blue egg shape. Yeah, there it is. And those little things coming out of it. So you could see where we're camping there. And as you see through the low parts of the canyons, these weren't really deep canyons. These were like sand hills. And then when those blue things started coming out, I remember how strange it was that there's no sound. When something that big, when something the size of a school bus flies into the air, and then those things come out, and then they're about the size of a Volkswagen, and then you expect that when they're going to hit the ground, you're going to hear bang, crash, bang, explosion, something.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was nothing. So that was the first sign of, I wanted to scream out, hey guys, but I didn't, because everybody was still. And I don't know why I just accepted that, because honestly, I could have gotten out of the Jeep and walked over and looked. And maybe I did. Maybe that explains why I had my flip-flops on while I was asleep. Or maybe I did get out of the Jeep, which would explain it. But I don't remember any of that. All I remember is the next morning I had lost my shoe. And it was very strange, because I had gone back to sleep as far as I knew.
Well, walking on that surface out there barefoot is not...
not even for a step. Not even one.
No, it's because of the tumbleweeds. There's prickers everywhere. You get goat heads and prickers in your foot if you're barefoot at all.
Yeah. So that's what was so weird, is how I could have been missing a shoe, but yet I didn't. My foot wasn't messed up in any way. It was still pretty good. We looked kind of desert ratty back then, because it dries you out really fast, and you just get this feral look pretty fast when you're out.
It just sticks to the sweat. You're just. Yeah, I used to color my arm. I used to write in the dirt.
Exactly. So So that's just part of the fun experience.
Let me ask you, and I remember part of when we were talking about this, and we're leading up to the big event that you and I first originally started talking. But we were talking about you sleeping and waking and seeing, and just that whole sort of state that you were in. So that was one thing, and then we were talking a little bit about how that went. But the other thing that I thought that you did that was pretty cool, and I think it was at this time, or maybe along the trip, or before, or maybe it was a subsequent trip. But you also remember seeing jackrabbits.
Yeah, we had seen jackrabbits. Just, it's not even a road. This is just a four-wheel recreation path. It's a trail. Right. If you want to say
they're common out there, but
yeah, and if you want to say let's go over there, then you just go over there. You don't find a road that gets you there. You just drive over there, and it doesn't matter what's between you and it. You just go over it, and that's part of the whole fun of the trek. And I had seen jackrabbits dart. They're really quick, but they were big. They're big jackrabbits, and they were lanky, like really big floppy feet and really big ears, but dirty, and I don't know how to say it.
Unusual, I think you remember.
Like a menacing looking, because they were big, and I could imagine that they're mean, and I've seen pictures of jackrabbits fighting since then, and I was like, whoa, that's weird.
Right.
But they're not like a bunny. It's like a jackrabbit is lanky and muscly hips and big paunch to sit, and kind of like a kangaroo shape. It's kind of
they
weird.
get big. Yeah.
So I had seen that before, but not really thought anything of it. It was just one more amazing creature that, because you see all kinds of things out there. Road runners, that's not
lots.
They're everywhere.
My school mascot was the road runner, and we'd play on the playground, and the road runners were just running all over the place, and we'd eat like jackrabbit stew and casserole. That's what we did with those jackrabbits. We ate them.
It's just it's amazing how much it seemed to impress upon you later, as you in retrospect, besides that particular night and what you saw in the air. And so just to let everybody know, that picture that we saw, it was the one that you drew. I asked you to draw a series of pictures after we talked, because that helps for people who've had experiences to remember, especially things, as you put it there, it was so vivid that you were so very specific about what you drew there.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing too is the next day, all day. Once we found my shoe, that was just totally strange. But the weird thing, even before I found the shoe, was I was having these little glimmer memories, flash, of coming down from the sky and seeing the guy laying on the ground, asleep, and the fire is still embery burning.
Right.
So I know I had to go up that night, because I had to be taken, or I don't know how I got up into the sky. And
it's almost like a near-death experience on the surgery table when you're looking down. Like, I have those memories too of I'm like, I don't know how I'm looking down at this. Like,
you can feel it and see yourself at the same time. So all of it was kind of.
And if it's a foggy, cloudy thing, or what state am I in, that sometimes can confuse things too. But I'm not saying that was.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, I knew I wasn't beaten up, and I knew that my weren't messed up, and I still had one shoe, and it was so strange finding that shoe. Was because we joked about it. I accused the guys, you come and taking my shoe, and they're like, why would we want your shoe? So I remember just like everything else, just sucking it up and saying, somebody give me a sock. A dirty old sock.
Didn't they call you?
I just had to cover my foot,
I remember they gave you a name, didn't they?
Yeah, because I'm when you're in the Navy and you're an electrician, you're a one wire. So I was a one wire, one sock.
One shoe, whatever.
So it was like, you're a mess,
Yeah, they made fun of you on that. I just thought that was funny when you were telling the story.
Well, then
again,
half a mile down the road, John, who we call Grizzly, he's passed now. He's like, what is your shoe? Your shoe is up on the top of the hill. And I remember just being floored. Well, I haven't been over here when we were half a mile away from where we were, and it's ahead of where we were. So we've never gone ahead and then come back. We just went up to a certain point and camped. So we came up with all the crazy, foul language, crazy delusional ideas of how it could have gotten up there, because that's what sailors do. And he went up to get it. And the weird thing is one of the, the whole way we were troubleshooting, how could it have gotten up there? Because there were no dig outs on that dark dirt. There was no way I could have gone up there without ruining my foot without the shoe. Mm-hmm. And there were no dig outs where anybody had walked up that hill. It was just packed and hard. But when John went up to get it, it dug out, and you had to really push and get a little bit of
left
momentum.
Prints, marks.
And on the other side of that was a sheer cliff. It was sitting on the point of a sheer cliff. So like the road was right here, and then there's just sheer cliff. So I don't know how we all do. You must have gotten up in the middle of the night and sleepwalking or something. It was like, no, I'm sure that was not what happened. So put the shoe on, and then about a couple next miles, then we found that weird a Buick Electra in between these giant, CJ, there's gigantic boulders out there.
Boulders. That's what I was going to say earlier, but the boulders through San Diego are so cool, and we would just climb on them. They're so cool.
Yeah. But in the middle of these boulders, in through the cracks, you could see this Buick. It was a bright green, like racer green Buick Electra with the big wheel covers. It was like top of the line. There's not a crack bigger than this that a body could climb through. There's no way there could be a way to get that in there. And so the guys were doing all their, ha ha ha, it was hilarious. We were rolling on our bellies to get up to it, check the trunk, which was all smashed up. And we noticed the wheel covers had gone. They looked like they had hit the ground at really fast and then smashed up. So instead of like this, they were all and curled up on the side of the car, like flattened out, and the tires were flat. Everything was just covered in dirt. It had been there a long time because there was a black canvas, those canvassy tops that had just shredded from the sun, I remember saying the only way this could have gotten here is if it was dropped from above, and everybody laughed about it, but they were all helicopter guys, and they all knew that was the truth, and they were, but then why would that happen?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then, why would that happen? So for whatever reason, people do crazy things, and they drop stuff from helicopters all the time, out in the desert. And, I've gone to places where we've had a party and pushed trucks off the cliff just to watch it smash below. So
yeah, I was going to say tweakers might do it. It sounds like a good Friday night with some tweakers.
Yeah. It was just like, that could happen, but how could that happen? So, we just kept going on. And I remember we talked about it for days, and then the shoe, and then kind of cast that aside. And then I took all my girlfriends back, and that was on my 22nd birthday, and it might have been my 21st birthday. And no, it was 22nd. And they had hidden a birthday cake in the bottom of a cooler. It's 100 degrees out there. Who would ever expect a birthday cake? We had piled in the back of this old Ford truck. We call it Battlestar Galactica because it was just like a beast, and it went everywhere. We went every back road from San Diego over
to the border, probably
the desert. Yeah, every fire road. So a lot of times we would just travel for 2 days for the weekend and never even hit the pavement hardly, except just to get to that point. And and it was very odd because we saw all odd things in the sky, and we were joking. I remember about seeing things move, but there's militaries everywhere around there, so you see stuff move in the sky all the time. It's not unusual, but you couldn't hear a whole lot of it. It was pretty quiet, and we had dug holes in the desert where we saw moist spots, and it was not deep in the Anza-Borrego, but like right when you go in, and it still was on Cayeta Canyon, but right as you go in and get off the controlled area to where
where there's still some farms and houses and stuff leading in.
Yeah, and you see people occasionally, and we had gotten, and then we started having something called I forgot what it's called, but the truck a vapor lock or something, if I remember right. And she said she'd had trouble before. So we were tired of going a quarter of a mile and then having to wait for the truck to cool off another quarter of a mile. You know, that's, who knows why we were doing that, but we were just having fun. Girls in the desert, no time slot. We just had fun. So we pulled over to the side. We dug the holes and ate birthday cake in the desert. It was just like really fun. Watch the sky. And I remember my friend Deborah, who had all the Claires, and I was stationed with her in Hawaii, which I do believe is probably why I had already started honing in on these things that I could do and manifest in small ways, just the way I think we all do with our intuition. And she said, would y'all like to see some spacecraft? And we all looked at each other and laughed, and then we all went, no. Because it was a little eerie out there, kind of weird feeling. And so that area, Anza-Borrego, is just
packed full of them.
It is just something else. And it's so funny because when I saw John Yost's movie, and he was in Anza-Borrego when it hit him, and it scared him so bad, the memories that he got just from seeing that spaceship in the sky. And he was doing a cheers with his studio crew, and they were all out there at a house in Anza-Borrego, and he saw the light of the spaceship through his drinking glass and thought, how odd. And then it freaked him out because he had all the memories of what had happened to him. And so I understood the part of the movie when he said, I went into my bedroom and I got all the furniture and bombarded the door and just sat there shaking. Boy, I really got that, because sometimes you get those feelings when you're out there and you wonder, why am I freaking out? But what am I afraid of? But you know that there's something to be afraid of. But
well, I mean, you know, that area
here, it's not a fear necessarily. It's a knowing that something different is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of those areas, and many people have gone out there, like CJ and you have both said. And I actually was stationed in that area with the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening, the area that she's talking about, Anza-Borrego, is a pretty big area of the southeastern portion of Southern California. It runs all the way to Yuma, Arizona, and it runs all the way up to, including the Salton Sea, up to the Coachella Valley, Indio. The main road that goes through the center of that is called S22, which actually goes from Salton City over to, actually gets to the road to Tecate. And
that's where we would get gas, Tecate.
And Otay Mesa. Otay Mesa is over there.
Yeah, Otay.
So a lot of folks would come up.
Otay Mesa, yeah.
Imperial Beach. I used to go out when they had all of the gliders, and we would go out and sit on the hills and watch them launch those gliders and watch them glide down.
Right.
Otay.
Yeah.
So the point is
kind of safe now, but it used to just be the place to get away and go, and it wasn't developed.
And we took many cases, and even in the patrol, there was a lot of strange things, because one of the things that you had said, I remember I used to sit on the back of my patrol car at nighttime because it was hot in the middle of the summer. I could not believe the way the sky looked.
Yeah.
You would see it move. It was like encapsulating. You could see forever because it's just all fat. So, clear and it's just a beautiful place. We're going to go to break here pretty soon, but, this is a transitional point for where I would like to go, because as you have ended your time with Borrego and got out, your adventure starts that you and I have come together. And just prior to us going to break, I want to make sure that people see what we did. In this particular case, MUFON, Susan reported her case, and she'll tell you how she got to MUFON. And that was the date that we received it and the experiencers. So I just want people to understand that we did an investigation, and it lasted a long time, and it actually still continues today because we try to follow people. Because I think, Susan, what you will probably say as others, you remembered a lot of things since we've talked. A lot of things have come back. A lot of things have made sense. And now you understand why maybe that was then, and maybe I didn't understand it now, like you're talking about Borrego Springs. Well, you understand those things now because you've looked at them in hindsight, and you've looked at them and say, oh, that's what that was. That's the reason why, so it's an important aspect. And just in a minute, we're going to go to break, but it's a good setup because now you're 22, your time in the service is up, and you're thinking about what you're going to do with the next portion of your life. And as best I understand, you and your roommate are going to, as you say,
road trip, Thelma and Louise.
That's right.
And we're going to talk about, that road trip and what it means in our next hour or segment.
Well, I'll say, you know what, Susan, too, because that's that time frame. And I'll send you the article that I have about San Diego UFO down in San Diego, but that is also roughly the time frame of my experience too. And I'm up near Alpine, which is, you take the 78 up through Julian, and then you're out in Descanso, and then you're up there. And we'd often go to my grandpa would take all the tractors down to Tecate to get the cheap gas in the 70s. That sticky old gas we'd all go get. And like the border was just more fluid back then. We had a lot of workers that just would come up for the summer and camp on our farm and work for us, and then go back down to Mexico and send the money to their families and stuff. And it's funny hearing you say all this, just because it's very much reminding me of just like not only my childhood, but my experiences. And they're so similar, realizing like mine was probably 77 and you're talking about like 78.
And I was there 7,
And
how I discovered it. On the forest roads, in the truck, just meandering for days, and then just pulling over and camp it, and then get back on the next day. And that's how you see the world. And that's what we did, the whole San Diego County, which, probably 5 or 6 different ecological systems in that. It's so weird.
Because you go from the ocean that's so beautiful in like the Balboa area and all this eucalyptus and the zoo and the downtown, and then you get into the lush green valleys of Mission Valley, Fashion Valley, whatever. And back then there was not a huge community like up near Temecula. As you go further north now, it's just all houses. But back then it was just fields, nothing, desert field. Exactly, right? And we would just go and plow fields for people and bale hay. That's what we did. My grandpa would take his tractor. Like we had a farm also, but we also made money baling hay for other people. So we were just cruising around, swimming in old frog ponds, jumping off of boulders, and you know what I mean? And trailers. Our friends lived in like trailers by a boulder, like no electricity.
There's creeks everywhere. It was like it's where you want to go if you just don't want rules and instruction, and you just want to see real nature at its absolute finest. And when people say, how did all these things happen to you? Well, if you just sit in the city all the time in your home, it's not going to happen. But when you go out, whether you're looking for it or not, it's going to happen. But if you start looking for it, then it's really going to happen.
Yeah, get out there and wander. And if anyone listening, if you can go to Anza-Borrego for the spring, like right now is the time you book a campsite because they're going to be gone in the spring to go and see the poppies and the wildflowers bloom.
Blooms. It's one of the most fabulous things on earth.
The most beautiful, so beautiful. And there's cabins you can rent. And we do get a lot of reports. I know when we go camping, I'm always staring at the sky, but of course nothing happens when you're just like, staring, waiting for something to happen. But that's amazing. I guess I didn't realize how.
Taking Girl Scouts to out there to go camping for the weekend from San Diego. A friend said, "Would you like to go with the Girl Scouts?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah!" Because it was so much fun. But it was so odd when you're with the Girl Scouts, and then when you're just with your people. What a difference!
Remember the campfire girls? There were Girl Scouts and campfire girls.
But I remember after having some weirdness out there already, I felt very protective of the girls around the campfire. It's like, in other words, nobody wanders off. Nobody goes to the bathroom by themselves because there's stuff out there.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you're just out near the border. There's also people just walking around. There's people walking over the border, coming to look for work, and you could run into anybody. Okay.
Yes.
All right, you guys ready for a little break now? And we'll be back in about 3 minutes, and then we'll go on our adventure of the Jackrabbit Abduction Enigma.
Yay.
See you in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Hold on to your seats, Cosmic Explorers. KGRA Digital Broadcasting, the unrivaled #1 source for raw, uncensored paranormal and UFO talk radio, has just unleashed a sizzling online merch store. Stay cosmic on the move with accessories, rugged phone cases, vibrant yoga mats, and notebooks perfect for jotting down UFO sightings. Ignite your obsession with the unexplained through bold, exclusive gear that demands attention. Kicking off with the Supernova, the store launches 2 heart-pounding collections, KGRA Digital Broadcasting and Bishop James Long. Every item you grab helps power the network and its groundbreaking shows. Stand with the truth seekers. Act fast, score your stellar swag, and join the uprising today.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
We're back for our second half of the episode with Susan Alloway and the Jackrabbit Abduction Enigma. I just want everybody in the audience just to remind everybody about the case, just so that you know, because we are MUFON proud, that's for sure. This is MUFON case 128720. We received it on February 13, 2023, when Susan reported it. The event that we're going to talk about, and Susan's going to take us on a little trip here, September 14th, 15th, 1978. 2 experiencers, Susan and her roommate. The incident or event, we believe, occurred around north of Cedar City, Utah. And then eventually, years later, the revelations, and she's going to talk about all those about 30-something years later where she remembers it and her encounter about how she came to learn more about what's going on. So, Susan, take us on a journey.
Well, I got out of the Navy September 14th, 1978, and the car was all packed. And we had just decided to drive across country. And I think she had taken 2, maybe 3 weeks off from the bank, Karen had, for a long vacation. And one of the officers in my workspace had asked, if you're going to drive my brand new Volvo, because I'm getting ready to get out also, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and my wife has a car and I have a car, and we need to get our car there. And not only is it expensive transporting it, but people drive the hell out of your car, and then when you get it, it's messed up. And I had heard so much about that in the Navy. So we're like, yeah, it's a brand new Volvo. We'll take it. How fun could that be? And then it gave us $1,500, which back in 1978 is probably worth $3,000 to $4,000, maybe $5,000 now, because hotels plenty of money for a really fun trip.
Right.
So we took off with that in mind, a really fun trip, and we headed to a Flagstaff and hung out there for a couple hours, and then to the southern Grand Canyon, and then east and up to the northern Grand Canyon. I think the plans that night originally, and we probably already had reservations, but we blew them off. And I remember something about that, about seeing the hotel as we got gas in Cedar City, and it was just like right at the interstate. We were like, ta-ta, we're not staying. We were just going to drive through the night because it was really hot during the day. And we knew if we drove at night, then we could stay and the next day in Grand Junction and enjoy the full moon in the meantime, because we had done a lot of desert camping, and it's the best time to camp.
And out of Cedar isn't that the stretch with no gas for like 200 miles right outside of Cedar City?
Yeah. So we had gone to St. George and then kept going to Cedar City. And there was a very weird but spectacular sunset that night. Then I remember after we got gas, we pulled over to the side of the gas station, and it was just shocking. It was like Maui, purples and pinks and bright reds, but it was all the way around us. It was like 360 sunset, which is kind of weird. And why would we really remember that unless it was kind of weird? So we jumped on the road. It was about 10 after, and then we knew the moon would be coming up to the east in just a few minutes. And then you could see it coming over the mountain, and it got so bright, and it was only maybe, if you're looking at the mountains, maybe 2 inches above, but it was still starting to get kind of high in the sky, and the mountains were a good bit away. So it was going up, stars galore, pitch dark out there. Absolutely nothing. Like CJ said, there's nothing there on that stretch. There's nothing. Like there's little towns now, but there were no little towns then. 2-lane road. So as we're going up and the moon's up, and I remember specifically saying, because Karen had started dating my friend Rick. Rick is the trip that I had told you about where the shoe got lost, and where I had seen the original Jackrabbits. And I said to Karen, oh man, I was so excited. Like, I know there'll be some Jackrabbits out here tonight, and so hopefully we get to see some Jackrabbits. It was a simple statement that to this day, just screams out at me. It was, I remember when the moon came up, we were driving with the lights on and off. We'd turn them completely off and drive. It was so bright that you could see the road, and you could see little shadows moving. And, of course, you'd always wonder what were those shadows. And then we'd turn it on for a while. It was only about 10 or 15 minutes that we were doing that. And I remember, it stands out so odd in my mind that I even remember that we were listening to Dr. Wu. That's how weird that this is. it just blasted in my head because it was blasting with the windows down, and all of a sudden the moon's gone. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's weird because the stars are going too. So Karen's, looking up, driving. I leaned my seat back. I stuck my whole body out, like a dog with the hair blowing. No moon. None. It was completely pitch black, except for our headlights on the highway. Blue, I remember us talking about it. We got to pull over. We got to find the moon. Like, it was scaring me. I had this fear that sits, up in your throat. Because that didn't make any sense. Even looking over to the left, thinking maybe he had already gone up and gone down. That's just bizarre, those thoughts, to even be having them at that point. But that's what all was going through there. And it was frantic, like jump out of the seat, crawl around the car, look. All of a sudden she came to a stop, highway, in the road. And there was not another car around. That's exactly how it looks right there. That is the road.
That's the picture you drew.
Yeah, and the one beside it's exactly how it looked. So you could just see forever. And we just stopped, and next thing you know, now you couldn't see the moon because it was pitch dark, but that's how it was before the Jackrabbits got there. That was the view, the last view in my head. Then everything was dark, and we stopped in the road. Specifically remember getting out, but I remember once I was already out, walking past the front of the car, and Karen came around the other way. And in front of us were gigantic jackrabbits, maybe 3.5 feet tall, 30 or more, covering both lanes. And they were all looking away from us in various jackrabbit-y kind of positioning. They were moving, that they were jackrabbits. In our mind, they were jackrabbits. And at that split second, the light came down from above, and it was this milky white. You could see completely through it, but it was not a thin light. It was a thick white, pure white, the brightest white. And I still have trouble with my eyes to this day because ever since then, I have to wear sunglasses a lot. I can't stand glare. But that white light came down. And at that split second, the reason I remember it just flat went silent, and the lights went silent, and there was absolutely nothing but pure pitch black. And we know where we're standing in front of the car, looking at the jackrabbits, and then everything happens, and then all of a sudden they all turned around at the same time, just turned around to look at us. And they weren't jackrabbits. Then they were just gray aliens. And it took me until to be able to say they were gray aliens. And the only reason I said it's because Karen, when I talked to her on the phone, she said, "What was it? What was it?" And I said, "Gray." And she said, "Gray aliens?" And I went, "Oh my God, I can finally say it," because she didn't remember the gray aliens. And she just stopped in the road. And then the second we saw the gray aliens, my throat's drying up. Sorry about that. We woke up in a diner in Grand Junction, Colorado. Like this. Woke up looking at each other, and the waitress had said, "Time to wake up, honey." And I always get this way when I tell the story. Sorry. It's like the most helpless you've ever felt. Where the hell are we? How did we get here? Who are you? I couldn't seem, I think beside Karen because I was so scared. I just wanted to like be right beside her. Because at this point, reality was very weird. And where are we? And she said, you're in Grand Junction. And I looked at the clock at the exact same time. I said, what time is it? It's 6:28 a.m. How did we get here? And she pointed, she was driving. Karen was driving. She pulled up. We don't remember any of that. But I do have a flash of standing in front of the car, which I think watching Karen open the door and this hot air hitting us that felt like it was going to like peel your skin off. It was so hot and drying, and we had had 9 hours of missing time by then. And I remember looking across the street and there was only one big giant red rock left. Like we had started in Red Rock and then it's all gone except that one big rock. And then I don't know how, we were covered in radiation burns. They were, it's nothing else feels like that, I'm sure. Your skin starts raising up and you get patches, and then it's burning so bad. It's like the burns coming from inside and outside, just like you're in it, like it's going to come off and your skin's going to come off your bones. And then I was feeling little blisters and itching and really nauseous and sick and so confused as to how we got there. And then the next part I remember, we went to a hotel, which is not it was like a cinder block hotel, where you get out of your car and you go straight to the door and open it up. And there were 2 beds, and Karen just literally melted into the bed, fell into the bed, no words. We couldn't speak about what had happened because we didn't know what had happened. We just knew we looked like this, burned. We were dry desert dogs. There was no moisture left in our bodies. That's how it felt. Confused. We had not been drinking or done any. Don't know what happened. And I went to take a shower, and that's when I discovered I was burned so bad that it made me scream out when the water hit it. So I just wrapped myself in a towel, and then all I could think of is just going and getting close to Karen because I was scared to death something was going to come and separate us. So I'm pretty sure that's why we didn't go to the hospital, because I knew we would be separated and questioned, and we didn't have any answers whatsoever. It was just the strangest thing that ever happened. And we slept for probably 20 hours until later in the day, and then went to sleep for the whole night, and then got up the next morning, and we were going to leave and go to Denver because I had friends in Denver from the Navy. They were expecting us, and we never went because how are we going to explain this? How could we go there and go? So Karen didn't remember the Jackrabbits, but we both know we woke up in a diner 360 miles away, burned. And so we just kept going, and we tried to just have a perfect, wonderful trip. This is our vacation. But something like that has happened. It's very hard to talk to each other because we remembered the day before we had so much fun, and then where did this go wrong? It had to go wrong when the moon and the stars went away. That was the beginning of the crazy. So Colorado, Lake Dillon, we didn't really have to talk there. It was pretty much go look at old gold mines, and do some hiking, to which neither one of us had any energy, and we were so sick. You can see how old the pictures are. They're all yellow.
The orange.
So she had pictures of everything.
This is actually the trip. This is the trip.
Before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we went to see, we spent 3 days there. We just ate and slept, ate good food and slept, did a little bit of hiking, tried to talk to each other about what had happened. It would only come to a certain part of your mouth, and then the words would not come out. It would sound like that, because you couldn't get it to come out. You could see it in your head, but you couldn't talk about it, and it would make you nauseous and weird feeling in your head. So there was no fighting that. It was just, I don't know what that was. And to this day, I don't know what that was. It was some kind of comatose state or something. And of course, we didn't tell them about that part. But I remember they were always like, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" Because we were so, that's that desert dog look, like, where have you been? Well, we just blamed it on, we've been driving across country for 3 or 4 days and we're worn out. That was easy to do that. But I remember I wore long sleeves a lot, and a turtleneck if I could, because I had a scoop mark. It's still there on my neck. It's a scoop mark that was pretty deep, and it looked like a hickey, like dark purple and red, and it was embarrassing. I also had marks on my back, but I think I mainly was a little quiet and standoffish because I was burned and sick, nauseous. My whole gut was messed up. My head was messed up. My skin was messed up. It was just, memory falling from the sky. That's another thing. I remember seeing the picture, literally just memories of falling through the atmosphere. It was dark, and it went to light, then it went to blue, then it went kind of like dark again, and then in the atmosphere. So
that's the picture that you drew. That's the picture that you drew of you falling.
Yeah. And that's where I remember seeing the sun come up below me, because it was coming through over the earth. You could see it peeking through the valleys first, and it was turning bright orange on the red rock below. So I was still in the red rocks, but I don't remember going back into the car or anything like that. Oh, and here's the other weird thing, is we had kept a AAA book. So it has your mileage, how much you paid for the gas, how many miles you had gone, where you're going to stay. It was kind of like a pre-planned thing, and we had gone to AAA and got a trip ticket. So a book had everything in it, every plan that we had, little things that had happened. And I lost that book in the 90s in a move that it was left in, I think, in the attic of a house, and just about kills me because I wish I had had that book. It had all of the weird notes and everything in it. But there was something else I wanted to tell you. Oh, so that morning that we had woke up in that strange hotel before we had gone to Dillon, we got out to the car, and here I am, just the natural thing to do. It's hard to talk. Let's figure out the mileage. There was no mileage. It was still the same mileage, a tank of gas.
Because that's like a 5-hour drive from Cedar to Colorado.
It's almost 400 miles.
Yeah.
That's like a long time.
Yeah, that should register.
We had to go with us.
So more than likely the car was probably picked up with you and transported.
And I don't know where that down, but I know the lady at the diner said you pulled in and she was driving, and that was like 15 minutes ago. So 15 minutes we had slept.
So you wonder how that car got in the rock there in Anza-Borrego, huh? Could have been right.
Same, right. There's only so many ways that all that could happen. And me falling from the sky, Karen wasn't with me then, but that's just really weird. But I remember when I figured all that out, she was already driving, and I just couldn't even speak it because it was so shocking. Looking over and getting that mileage, and wrote it down, and I just handed it to her and showed her. And all she could do was just.
How did you, think about that. How do you reconcile? Of course, you already were dealing with whatever else was going on and the effects.
How do you talk about it?
Yeah. How do you reconcile that?
beaming up, that's long before beaming up. We didn't even know about that stuff. So it's obvious that we had been taken. We tried to figure out every scenario, but we didn't speak those scenarios in any way beat up or anything. But that we knew at the moment, So we got back to North Carolina. The trip was over. I remember doing something really weird when we went to Illinois. We wanted to add on the extra state of Wisconsin. So we drove right into the edge of Wisconsin, and we were going to pick up some cheese because that's what you do in Wisconsin. And instead, we got this gigantic, 14-inch cheese wheel. A 14-inch cheese wheel in Wisconsin. I always thought that, where was my mind? What? I'm just not thinking straight. I guess it was maybe the $1,500. We had money to go buy a big hunk of cheese, and we did. So everybody on the whole trip got cheese before we left. I still think that was one of the weirdest things that happened. Is why would I ever do that?
Hanker for a hunk of cheese.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of little curds, giant wheel. Yeah. So everybody got a hunk of cheese. Everybody loves cheese. So we love cheese. And when we got home, still really sick, quiet, not knowing how to handle this with my family. Everybody was there. Yay, Susan's home. All my friends, everybody. Well, you visit, you get rid of everybody. Karen and I, 2 days later, took off to Atlanta to take her back to the airport because it was easier for her to fly out of Atlanta, which is a 4-hour trip. So I drove there. I saw some of the pictures that you had posted where we went to underground and all that. And then I came home. Glad that it was all over. I just needed some quiet time to where I didn't feel like I needed to talk about it. Yeah. But I was still sick. And I think what had happened is I think the actual radiation poisoning was starting to hit me because I just couldn't get out of the bathroom. I was just puking and shitting and couldn't eat, couldn't think straight, couldn't explain my feelings. I remember taking my father's face in my hands and saying, Daddy, you need to listen to me. We were very close. I think I mentioned jackrabbits waking up in a diner. I think I am radiation burned. And he had been in the Air Force, and he said, after taking me back, he was probably wrapping me in a towel and taking me back and forth to the bathroom. My stepmother had a bucket. I was so sick. My little sisters don't remember this, but they were doing cheerleading and stuff. They were much younger. So thank goodness they don't remember that. But I was that's where I stayed. And my dad went down to the local drugstore, which you could do back in the 70s. Everybody's got an Uncle Jim. And he brought something, phenobarbital, which I guess is like anticonvulsive. I've looked it up since then. And I don't know if he knew or maybe he just explained I was maybe having some seizure or something. I don't know what he told Jim, but I took 2 of them. They were big, black and green, I think. And me out for about 20 hours. Daddy said I got up a couple times, but I don't remember any of that. And then when I finally woke up and everybody was there at home, and I just laid in the living room couch because I was starting to feel a little bit better. But it took the phenobarb to put me in a coma pretty much to fix me. And I was hurting really bad on my right side. I thought for sure maybe it could have been appendix, but there's just no going to the hospital. There's too much time. I had crazy memories. They would have separated Karen and I, and then they would have put us in the crazy unit. They would have put us and probably given us drugs to knock us out until we quit crazy talking. And
And that's what phenobarbital was used for. Remember in the TV show Emergency, they were always going, giving them so many cc's phenobarbital. It's a sedative.
Oh, okay. So that's what it did.
Yeah, and
it
that's why they use it
out.
also for seizures, because it creates a sedative effect that will lessen and lighten the seizures. But it was often used as a sedative. A sedative back in the 70s.
I think it probably just put me kind of in close to a coma, to where my body worked itself out. It kind of healed itself quiet for 2 days so it could heal itself. It was at least 48 hours. It was about 2 days. And I was really weak and starving, hungry. And so I knew I was better when I woke up like that. Laid around to California looking for a job, to which, you can't mention those things. I'm pretty sure I still had a security clearance, to which I could have used in a new job. And I just had just started dating right before we took the trip. And thank goodness we had those boyfriends, because I was going to marry this one for 35 years. And it's a good thing we had the boyfriends at the house, because Karen and I lived together. And when I went back, it was really hard to live together and not be able to talk. Like, you couldn't just say things like, remember when we stopped in the road, the Jackrabbits? And, you just can't. There was none of that. It made you feel too weird to even think it. So to come out your mouth, you weren't about to do it.
It almost sounds like a hypnotic block, like a message, a block, like a hypnotic block almost, Well,
yeah, because you could see it. You could see it. You could smell it. You could taste it, but you couldn't speak about it. It was so horrible. It would stick in your chest, and it would be like screaming to get out of your head, but it wouldn't come out. And it is so bizarre that you would actually say something like that, that you would check. It's almost like check yourself, because
when we often find this with people who suffer trauma or can't rationalize what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, what they believe. That's why a lot of times when kids have been exposed to it, or was it make believe? Was it my fun friend? Was it my grandma who's passed, all those things. And, that, we have a difficulty rationalizing it. And then life happens, of course, too. And, we say, well, I don't know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was from a family of cops. So that made it even harder. Even though I do remember seeing my brother stand beside me and seeing something in the back. So he was 6 and I was 4. It's right before we moved to the new house where I was raised, and we stayed. And I was in the neighbor's backyard, or kind of like where the two come together. There was no fence, and there was a giant oak tree, and there was a swing down, a big rope swing. It had a board attached to it with a knot underneath. And we were standing out there, and he was getting ready to mow at 6 years old. He was going to mow, which, you did things like that back then. And he was going to, and I don't know if he was like helping Daddy and Daddy didn't know or what, but he was pulling the pull on that lawnmower. And he looked at it, and he just stood there and looked at it. And I looked at it. The rope hung down, and then it curled so that the swing was sitting like here, and the rope was sagging, hanging from the tree like this, like a J. It just smoothed up. And I looked at him and I said, "You see that?" And he went, "Nope." And then he ended up being a cop for 37 years.
I was going to say, that sounds like a cop.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, I see it, but I'm not talking about it because it makes no sense. There's no proof that happened. And it's like, I'm not sharing that with anybody. Because I know that.
Like Schultz, Hogan Heroes.
Those together. Yes. Yeah.
I see nothing.
Nothing.
But this is a strangeness factor. This is the Oz factor that we've talked about, that time, space, what we're seeing, the fogginess. Is it a dream? Did I feel it? Did I know it? and you're at a point in your life, with the service and going back to California, and then life happens. And then I'm curious, because I think this is an equally important part of the story. 34 years passed.
Yeah. And I had my second child. I had 2 miscarriages shortly after this whole thing happened when I got back to San Diego. Chuck and I got married. Well, this happened September 14th. We got married December 31st. So we only knew each other 6 months. I still wonder if maybe I was just scared to death to be alone at that point because of what had happened. It was just a very strange feeling. Ever wanted to be alone. I'm just the opposite now. And now I love my alone time. It's like the best thing in the world. But before, it wasn't like that. And we had 2 children, and I got really sick. My guts got sick, and I went to the doctor. I had lost a whole lot of weight while I was pregnant with my son, like 20 pounds. Losing 20 pounds while you're pregnant is opposite of what usually happens. I was really a doctor, and he said, I think we're gonna have to do a hysterectomy, and I was like, good, let's just do it. And next morning, after surgery, he said, I really got some questions. And okay. And I remember I was pretty hepped up on pain drugs. And for some reason, they've always made me, instead of lethargic, they've made me like hyper and act different. So he said, everything went fine, except I found something that I've never seen before. Said, your appendix at sometimes has ruptured. And I don't understand this, but it had been cleaned out, rolled. He went like this, rolled up, and your fallopian tube, which is kind of be a tiny little like hair size, like tiny, had been attached to it, and then a seam. He used the words high heat cauterization. And on top of that, you have no scars. So how, and your right ovary was missing. Missing? What do you mean? But I wasn't about to go into that because I knew, 1978, it's come back to haunt me. It was like every alarm went off. And he said, I'm just so confused. You have no surgical scars, but your appendix has ruptured. And then here's the weird thing. He said, and I don't include this sometimes, inside your appendix, there was a sack of pellets. And that just like shut me down. Oh my God. I've got a foreign object in me, a sack of pellets. So, I just went, like la-di-da. Oh, well, I'm kind of hurting and I'm ready to turn over and go to sleep. And that was like it. Next morning before I left, same thing. I'm still really confused by this. I've never seen this. I don't even know what to say. And I was like, I don't know what to say. Trying to figure that one out. So no scars except the one he just made. But yet I've had some major surgery inside. And I actually asked, so what do they do? Just send that pack of pellets out? Because what is it? And he gave me a couple ideas of what he thought it might be. And it's really weird because Gray and I had talked about this, and in him being a nurse, he knew something about this and said he had a couple ideas about it too. But it was just so strange that I couldn't figure out if I had been harmed or helped.
Well, what did you find out later about your ovaries from the military?
Just last year. Yeah, it was just last year. I moved in July and it was at the other house. So it was just last year, maybe a year and a half ago. I had gotten my medical file from the Navy, and in it, I had when I was released, when I was honorably discharged in 74, it was in my folder that I had been having trouble with that right lower quadrant, and they couldn't decide if it was a cyst on that ovary or if it was appendicitis. So I know I had the ovary. I had already had two.
3 months prior to you separating,
Yeah.
it had been documented that you had it.
Yeah, not only that, but I didn't trust the Navy doctors, and so I actually went to a civilian doctor, and I also there was a right ovary there, and it had a gigantic. So that tells you something. So then the whole ovary is missing. The tube has been sewn into a seam, and none of that made
Pouch,
sense.
I think you called it a pouch. Yeah.
Yeah, a pouch. We called it a pouch. That was just creepy. So then I hear about people's implants, years and years and years later, and I'm thinking, gosh, was that an implant, or was that something to help me? Is that what saved me? Is that why I hurt so bad? And thank goodness Dad gave me phenobarbital. I mean, I honestly think that might have saved my life right there.
So that was 87 when you had your son and you had your hysterectomy, right? 87, 88. I'm sorry, 89. I apologize. And then from there, obviously life happened, and and then we go to 2022 when you have.
Yeah. So I'm sitting minding my own business at my desk. I'm living in Cazadero in the Redwoods, and I'm kind of under somebody else's house, and I'm working at my super lit with every kind of light imaginable to bring the light in. It's dark in the Redwoods. I hear in my head, UFO movie. I thought, what was that? It was like a voice came in to my head and said, look up a UFO movie. And I just thought that was the weirdest thing. So I stopped what I was doing and I went to my iPad and went UFO movie. And I thought, oh, let me go to Amazon. Because anything, they pretty much have everything. And it came up, John Yost movie had been released that exact day. I think it was May 3rd, 22. And it was
Alien Abductions Answers.
An abduction answers. And I thought, oh, what the heck? And I bought it, which I never, ever buy a movie. I didn't rent it. I bought it. And sat down in the chair because at this point, I'm intrigued. I've only heard that voice in my head with the aliens. And from something I conceived my children, I heard it. It said, you just made a baby. And it was so obvious. That was a female voice, but this was not a female voice that said UFO movie. And so I'm curious by then, like, where did that come from? Because I literally looked around the room. This is too weird. And because it hadn't happened in a while. But I did notice that after the divorce and all, I was so uptight and it kind of lost my magic. And my magic was coming back. My intuition was coming back. I would see things and hear things and be so delighted that you hear that when I know that they didn't. Or I wanted to say, did you see that? And I knew nobody would. So all that was coming back. And so I sit down in my chair, the same chair I'm sitting in right now, and hit the play. And there's John's face. And 17 seconds in, I literally just rolled out of my chair onto the floor in the fetal position. Holy shit. What is this about? That's exactly how that moment happened. What is this? Am I crazy? Because what he said is that the government's known about this for all these years, and that personally he was tired of having to lie about it to cover up parts of his life. And when he said that, it was like all parts of me. The time is now. This is a call to arms, Susan. Finally, just work on it. figure it out. What went on? I don't have to worry about my family, the government coming into my home, weird phone calls, people wanting in my business. I didn't have to worry about any of that anymore. And now's the time. And I felt such a freedom. The fact that I could finally investigate this, and I didn't know what to do except 2 days later. It took me 2 days. I was still working on my fairy house and my art. 2 days later, I went on and I found John Yost on Facebook and I friended him. And he came up right back and he friended me back, which I was kind of surprised. He didn't know me from Adam. And then I saw him on one day and I went to the, where the little phone call on Facebook, and I called him because I saw him on. I am not a person to, like, nobody's a celebrity to me. Everybody's talented in their own way. So I'm not a celeb, kind of person. I'm not when people are overly impressed with themselves, especially. So the thought that I would just call John after he's the producer of this movie, and he answered, and I said, there he is. And I said, John, my name is Susan Alloway, and I just watched your film, and I don't know what to do with this, and I need some help. And I bet you didn't know that this was going to happen when you made this movie, but it's happening. And something in there just injected is now. And he was like, whoa. So we talked about the movie, and then he sent me to Deb Shakti, who was in the movie and was his therapist. And I contacted Deb right away. And then I had a hypnosis session for 4 hours. I was under for about 2.5. And everything, the shoe, which we hadn't even discussed. Deb knew nothing about the shoe. It's so amazing how that came up in my foot when I was up with the blue egg-shaped UFO in the desert. That explained so much. It was just a quick watch the shoe fall off my foot, and I was in the air. And it was a realization. And when I was watching the movie, I was watching the film where she sends you the video of when you're under hypnosis. And I just screamed out, the shoe! The shoe! And I was looking like this, like I was looking for my shoe because I saw it in my head. It was a really exciting moment. But everything happened that night. I relived in my head and got all the extra little details. And that was all pretty fascinating when you go back and do that. But in the meantime, after Deb's, I had looked for years.
Can I ask a question? And I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by this one part. So tell us what you remember about going up, because we left the story when you were going up into the ship.
And then I woke up in the diner. Okay,
right.
So
but Deb's helped you remember what happened in the ship.
Yeah. I literally put myself in a bubble and transported to that exact part to where we got out of the car and watched it. And I had remembered grabbing with my left arm, grabbing Karen, who was left of me, just like you would, like a sack of potatoes, groceries, in the spare seat. You hit your brake and then everything spills. Well, I had that feeling, and I remember having that feeling and swooping and grabbing onto Karen. And that's because we were going up into the ship. We were just raised right up. I don't remember the car, but I remember Karen up in that light. And I remember them telling me she was with me, but I couldn't see her. But I knew, in my intuition, I knew she was behind me somewhere. And it was so weird because there's no corners, there's no walls, there's no I don't know, how would you say it? Because there's walls, it gives you a specific area. But inside that ship, there was no enclosed feeling of walls. And everything was white, milky, including the beings. They were still gray, but everything was white, milky. And nothing was like this. I don't cabinets. There's no furniture. There was only railings, like these long, skinny rails that were attached. I can't even say they were attached to the wall because there's no wall. They were just floating.
It almost sounds like in the Matrix, that room Neo goes to, where like it's like the walls fall away and there's stuff, but he's in a space, but there's no, like Bill Skywalker's thing, like a seamless. Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, well, there's a cool part in there that I've always related to, which is this room, this virtual room where he's practicing, and it's a room I've seen and been in somehow, and I'm not sure, but it's vast. Like you can feel there's an area, but it's vast at the same time. Is that what you're describing?
Yes.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but yeah.
It all just bleeds into it. There's no conception of space.
Right.
Conceptually, no space. It's all curved. Everything's just, it's almost like you're in a dome, but you're probably not in a dome. I mean, I just don't know. But this is the weird part that I struggle with. So I know I was sitting when he laid me down, but the fact that I was sitting means there was gravity. I was sitting on something that had to be attached to something. And in my head, I could see a pedestal and a flat table, and I'm on that table. And there's something over there in front of me, like way at the end of the table, but it's hard to say because there's no conception of space. But right beside me was that gray alien. And in my head, I don't remember. I just remember a constant feeling of calm. And then I thought, this is just too weird. And then I looked at the alien and I wanted to touch him. And in my head, I was thinking, oh, I really want to touch you. And I remember my hands were like, oh, I really want to touch you. And it said, that's okay. Oh, and then I was scared to death because it heard me. And then it said, it's okay. You can touch me. And I just ran. I don't think I even looked at it. It was so creepy that the whole feeling of it, running my finger down it. And then when I pulled my hand back, I smelled it. And so and in my mind, I was like, oh, ew, ugh. You know, like that's disgusting. And it said, no, it's not ew. I am you and you are me. And I thought, these are my thoughts. No, I'm a vanilla girl. I don't smell like rotting Parmesan. I was thinking I had mine. And it was like rotting Parmesan cardboard.
You told me, you said stinky cheese when you told me.
Stinky cheese. Yeah, like the worst rotting, because I still love Parmesan, but if it's really aged, it's almost like, well, you know, get away from me. And I love stinky cheese, but it really set me back because that's what it smelled like. And a baby diaper, like a pissy baby diaper. And it was all that together, you know. So when it said ooh, when I said ooh, and it heard me say ooh, and I thought at first it was like, is that offensive? Did I upset somebody? Or is that humor? If that's not ooh, it was just like he was laughing at me. And then I didn't feel shame or anything. I just thought, oh, I've been caught because he can read my mind. And it's really funny because since then I heard it somewhere that people said, if you ever find yourself in that position, think of a song that you know all the words to and start singing that song in your head because they can't read your mind if you're singing a song. And I thought I never heard. Oh, they can read your mind no matter what. Because when I said ooh and it went, oh, it's like, that's not ooh. I am you. You are me. And I thought, I'm a vanilla girl and I will never smell like that. But then, all those thoughts are just in the moment. You don't think of future. You don't think of what that is. It's all so different that there's nothing to compare it to. You're on Earth.
It's ironic. I mean, we've been going and you're sharing it and we're almost out of time. That's the sad part about it. And I know that's probably the most significant part that you remembered through what you and Deb Shakti happened. And so one of the things I just want to make sure that people see before that you go, and I want you to share something too about what you want everybody to know. This is a book by Preston Dennett, who you met after, and your chapter is in there. Susan, is it chapter 19?
Yep, I am chapter 19.
So for those people who, and again, because we could talk for another hour, who want to hear more or read more, you can get Preston's book, and Susan's chapter is number 19. Preston has got 21 cases in there, and Susan's is one of them. And Preston is the one who actually referred Susan to us. And
yes, it's so weird. I said, "What do I do, Preston? What do I do next?" And he says, "Make a report with MUFON. If you're not afraid of the government anymore, and there's no reason to be. I mean, there's many people. There's not. All I could think of is there's not that many men in black anymore. Right. All those crazy things that you hear. But then it came across Earl's desk, and then I met you, and then CJ threw it, and sometimes I hear people say things about MUFON, and it's like, I don't know what MUFON you're talking about, because I have found y'all to be the most loving, kind, giving bunch, and I can't wait to start going to your meetings every month in Southern California.
That's Southern California MUFON.
There's nothing. There's nothing in Northern California.
No, there is, but yeah.
There is.
Well, there is, but it's not for me. It's not. Yeah.
And yeah,
it's not
the good thing about this is you're sharing your story. People are hearing it. I know that's what you want. And I know that's what John wanted. I know that's what a lot of folks who are willing to open up to this. And Susan, we really appreciate it. Is there anything that you'd like to just go away with before CJ and I close out the show? Thank you again. But is there anything you'd like to say?
I know.
I don't know if my grandkids know it yet. One of the videos is really taken off to where there's like well over 100,000 people that have viewed it. That's on Breaking the Silence.
Breaking the Silence. I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like taken off. And so I'm hoping that my grandkids have seen it, but I'm hoping that in time we can talk about it instead of me being the crazy grandma, because, people can play that way too. And it's hard to say because I didn't ask for it to happen. I wasn't summoning anything. I've never had to do that. I've had a fabulous, beautiful, joyful life, and it all has come to me, and I manifest well too. But I still to this day don't go looking, because I still see, and you both will understand, sometimes when you see, that they see you too. And I'm very aware of that. Doesn't happen every time, but sometimes feels special still. And I just try to let my intuition show me what I need, and I'm really glad I've had the people around me that have been such great instructors, like Earl and Preston and Debs and both of you, because I've not stepped in any poop in this field.
Well, you said Breaking the Silence, Steve Neal's case that you're talking about, the 100,000 views. But we can catch you there, and we can catch you in Preston's book. We got to go because we're running out of time, and I apologize. Thank you, Susan, for being a part of it, and thank you for sharing your story with everybody.
Thank you both for having me here and making me feel so comfortable, because I was nervous as heck before this started. Whew.
Well, CJ and I are going to close out the show, so thank you very much, Susan.
Okay, CJ, I'm hoping that you're going to be at Contact in the Desert this next year.
I got my hotel room, girl. I got my hotel room.
Boom, boom. Okay, we'll see you there. We're going to.
Okay, I'll see you there for sure.
There too. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you do.
Cocktail by
You're
the
always
pool
giving
in
me
June.
Bye, Susan.
Yes.
CJ?
Yeah, I know we got to wrap up. I just want to say, look, guys, there are no experts when it comes to UFOs. Anyone who says to you, I can tell you who they are, why they're here, and what they're doing is a liar. Do not listen to them. Run the other way. But there are a lot of great podcasts out there. And quickly, I just wanted to mention the Leto Files this past week or a few weeks ago when you're listening to this. There is a case that's titled 45-year hospice nurse, dying kid saw the same thin-headed beings. It is a fantastic episode. I really recommend that you go and listen. And the Leto Files in general, I find to be a very reputable. He's just interviewing people and looking for the truth, just like we are. So check out that podcast and listen to that nurse, because he has an amazing, amazing story. And thanks for listening today.
Hey, everybody, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Take care, everybody.